Excuse me. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back, or good afternoon, or good evening. Since you are watching us from different time zones, it is good to probably mix the three greetings consecutively. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. In our discussion of tonight's episode, Iraq time, we're going to come across some of the common questions that we get asked most frequently by our followers on our page, on Facebook, on private messages, and lots of time we get asked these questions by so many followers who give us these comments, and they give us a lot of feedback regarding what they know, what the skills that they have, and how they improve themselves. In tonight's episode, we have three common questions that I come across lots of the time by our followers. And question number one is, how can I improve my English outside classes? Question number two, can I learn English by myself? And question three is, my pronunciation and grammar are both fine, but how can I improve my listening? Now, these are very complicated, spider webby kind of questions, and they demand lots of attention. Not to say that in order to address these questions, they are not going to come with a flicker of a finger. No, they need lots of time, lots of effort, and lots of consecutive planned, carefully kind of training to get to a point of satisfaction. نقطة اكتفاء. But when it comes to language, this is very tricky and gray zone area. We cannot literally demarcate satisfaction in English. This is probably not going to make you comfortable, but English learning is a lifelong journey. You're not going to stop learning at some point and say, well, I'm done with English. I have mastered this language and I need to move on to other languages. All of them go in parallel. That means that the kind of question is, can I get to a threshold where I say my English is good and I don't need to learn anything new? No, that's not the case. With English, it's a lifelong journey. It's a journey that takes months, if not years, to shape, grow. English is like a date palm tree. شجرة النخل. It takes lots of time to grow, lots of time to feed itself. And when it stands, there you go. Your English is terrific. So the idea, in order, well, let's address these questions carefully, and then if you have any questions, please share them in the comment section. And by just listening to me talking right now, you're practicing active listening. So it's a good skill. Sometimes you need to listen to something that you're interested in. Something out of this world is not something that I would say is necessary. You just need to listen to something that you're interested in. Like if you're interested in laptops, if you're interested in technology, if you're interested in microphones, if you're interested in fashion, in design, in movies, try to come up with some activities that are related to this territory, and then you have access to hundreds, if not thousands, of videos on YouTube. You can access, this is probably the best free platform that you can access to so many famous people who talk about the same thing that you're interested in. And I still recall a saying that everything you know, you have learned from somebody else. To discover something new is quite difficult and challenging because of the prevalence of internet. What you need to do is to enrich the input. the amount of listening and watching. Nowadays, you don't have to just listen passively to radio. You can listen, you can watch. So these two human skills, these two human senses are great if they are coupled together. If they are coupled together, so you're watching, you're optimizing your skills actively and inactively, consciously and subconsciously. If you're driving to work, if you're driving to study, just wear headphones, listen to something, even for 5 minutes. This is going to give supplementary mental language multivitamins to your mind. That's why your English is going to be actively moving around and maneuver to make your English sounds better. I guarantee you, your English becomes so much better if you listen more. The best English learners that I came across in my life, in my career, are good listeners. And by good listeners, they are avid listeners. I'm not sure if this is the correct word, but they are avid listeners. They listen so much to different types of recordings, to lectures, classes, workshops, things that they are interested in. So if you make sure that you actively provide your mind with enough language multivitamins, like listening to snippets from news from here and watching a movie or a TV series from there, that is going to help you more. And also, remember something, don't buy big, bulky books if you're interested more in reading. No, you just need to buy something that is designed to be shorter, because if the author, and this is my own belief, if the author is able to say what he wants to say in 100 pages of a story, he's a great author. Because those people who go beyond 400 pages, they have some kind of history issues to say about the period, the era that they are talking about. So if we're talking about, for example, Crime and Punishment, if we're talking about Leo Tolstoy or Charles Dickens, those people are talking about a history lesson, about an era, about industrial revolution. So we are not after that. We are after listening actively to something that enriches our souls, enriches our spirits, enriches our mind to make us speak better. So, and in this way, you're just dodging big books for little number of stories that you can catch from here and there. If you're not interested in reading big books, and I'm really not interested in reading big books, you know what I read? You'll be surprised. I truly read this before I go to sleep. 5-minute stories. Sometimes if I have time, I go over this and I read it. This is very interesting. This is something that I got used to when I was a kid. It's funny, when you come across this kind of stories and you read them, they're like, each story is probably 3 or 4 pages. You learn a lesson from this story, and this lesson has many vocabulary. This lesson has many moral lessons to tell your students, to tell your friends. The simplicity of language is something that I always seek for. We're not trying to optimize the amount of language that we say to people, but our priority is to let people understand you. Number one goal in language learning and language conversation is to make people understand you. So if making people understand you is priority number one, that is going to undermine priority number 2, which is optimizing the linguistic production that you have. You don't need necessarily to become the next Chomsky of language when you speak. You need to simply say what's in your mind, and if you do not know how to say it literally, you can go ad hoc. You can choose alternatives. You can choose option A, option B, and option C. Yesterday, I was in a lesson, and the learner could not say the word ركود, ركود اقتصادي. I advised them, you do not need to use that word to let me know what is going on. You can just say the market is going down. It's easier. I understand it. We're both mutually have an idea, since the context supports that. We're both in Iraq, so we totally understand what he is talking about. So there is no necessity to contextualize the word or go hunt it in dictionary. This is not a necessity here. Plus, do not expect yourself to speak at the same speed level of Arabic. English is your second language. It's not your first language. So why do you equalize it with Arabic speed, which is, linguistically speaking, fluency? You do not need to equalize the level of speed of your talking English with that of Arabic. They are both different operating language systems in your mind, and the first primary operating language system is Arabic. So if you speak 100 words per minute in Arabic, you do not necessarily have to match that up with 100 words in English. I mean, it's a good goal for people who want to optimize their fluency levels in English, but that does not necessarily mean that you have an obligation or commitment to be on the same bar of English, of Arabic speaking level. English is our second language, so being slower when you speak is much better. It's going to give your mind, your memory, enough retention period to retain the word, to put it in the context, and to say it directly to the listener and let them understand it. English is the language of alternatives. الإنجليزية هي لغة البدائل. كيف? You can say the same thing differently. If you do not know how to say it the way you want to say it in Arabic, you can dodge that and alternatively use an alternative option to say it. Let's take an example. This is a very random example. Put the cup on the table. Put the cup out there. You can say, take the cup, put it in there. There. Please help me put it in there. Place it in there. Leave it in there. So these are 3 different options, and you can use your body gestures probably pragmatically to incorporate that, so you can have enough signaling ideas to the listener, to the person you're talking to come to an optimal mutual understanding level where you comprehensively understand each other competently without having any kind of miscommunication gaffes or misunderstanding or kind of language gap. So this is what I wanted to say here, and I don't want to have lengthy conversation about it, but this is just to keep it in mind that when you want to learn language, focus more on input. Your output is going to be directly influenced and becomes better once you ensure the quality of the listening, the quality of reading that you're doing. I will address your questions. If you have any question, please leave it in the comments. Send it to me privately on my page, and I will address them, inshallah, this evening or tomorrow or this week, whenever there is time for me to address that. Have a lovely evening. Try to invest some time in learning languages. Learning languages is going to make you speak better, understand humanity, become a global citizen, communicate with everybody in the world. English is spoken by 65 countries around the world out of 196 countries. Keep that in mind. Have a wonderful night. And again, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section or send them as a private message.